Detroit down through and through. Welcome back, Steve. Here, flying solo again today. Will's still working. I'm still off work from surgery, so here we are talking some Detroit Lions football. One of my favorite things to do. I'm going to be getting into a NFL draft prospects today. Before I get into it, hit that subscribe button, guys. Helps me out a whole lot. Doesn't cost you anything. Doesn't do much for me. I'm just trying to close that gap on some of those big dogs in this podcast game for a little bragging rights. That's all we're chasing here. I'm going to be honest, guys. I know what I'm going to talk about today is not a popular opinion. Um, I know where the Detroit Lions rank. I know how the offense looks. I know how the defense looks. I know that the defense is the main area of focus this offseason and draft. But what I truly, truly believe, I would be willing to bet any amount of money on it, is that Brad Holmes is going to fix this defense in some type of way in free agency. What that will be, I don't know. If it's a corner and a defensive end, if it's two corners, two defensive ends, I don't know what it's going to be. We will find out in about 6 days. I think the NFL free agency period and the new season starts on March 13th. So today's the 7th. So yeah, 6 days away, less than a week. We will have a more clear-cut answer on what he's going to do. Again, I don't know. Brad could go out and sign two corners. I don't know who they'll be. Let's say Kendall Fuller and I don't know, Joe Schmo off the corner of the street. Maybe he goes out and signs two defensive ends. I'm not sure. He will fix this defense, though. He will make it better. He will get it to where it needs to be I don't want to use the word dominant, but a more efficient defense. And part of that is getting Aaron Glenn his pieces. I understand how all that works. So today's episode, I'm going to be talking to Adonai Mitchell, the wide receiver from Texas. So that's why I had to clarify. I understand the defense needs help, but I'm confident that the defense will get fixed a little bit in free agency. Now, that's not to say that our whole draft is going to focus on offense, guys. I know how it's going to work. I'm just saying free agency could give us a luxury to not have glaring needs. Free agency could give us a luxury that when we go into the draft, Brad Holmes's draft board is a little bit different than everyone else's, a little bit different than what everyone else thinks it should be. So if he thinks that Adonai Mitchell is higher on his board than any interior offensive lineman or any defensive lineman, he could be the guy. Now, I don't know. I don't know who the guy is going to be. We've been very, very open on this show about just trying to go down these roads that Brad Holmes could go. We don't know which road he's gonna walk us down. We don't know. We've given you guys about 8 different scenarios. This is just one for maybe we go offense in the NFL draft round 1 instead of defense like everyone thinks, because we don't know how Brad ranks his players. We don't know what Brad knows. We weren't in the interview rooms. We aren't doing scouting for 16 hours a day, if not more. We're not in the office. We don't have any inside scoop. This is all speculation. So let's just assume Brad Holmes, like I said, signed some defensive players in free agency. Adonai Mitchell, Adonai. Some people say Adonai, some people say Adonai. I'm not sure how he pronounces his first name, so we're just going to call him Mitchell. Don't get confused with the cornerback from Toledo either, who I also would love to have. But here's the thing about Mitchell. We got to do something about these ESPNs and how they list players, because on ESPN he's listed as 6'4". I go by the combine. I think that's more official. There's no favoritism there. You know, the University of Texas can throw out whatever number they want and say a player is listed at this height, and it doesn't really get questioned. But at the combine, that's kind of like the way, the truth, and the life. Mitchell's listed at 6'2", according to the combine, 205 pounds. And here's the thing, guys. I absolutely hate the University of Texas. I'm obviously a Michigan fan. So you're asking yourself, why do you hate Texas so much? Well, I lived in Texas for 5 years. I was stationed at Fort Hood. I had to deal with nothing but Dallas Cowboys fans and the University of Texas fans. So I've grown to absolutely hate them. Not them personally, just their fan bases. It's up there in my bottom. It's up there in my top 5 worst fan bases of all time. So what I do is I take who I hate, and after the NFL or the college football season, it's done. It's dead to me. As my hatred for the University of Ohio State, as I call them, there's been a ton of players that come from Ohio State that I would love to have on the Detroit Lions. I was very high on CJ Stroud last year. I was very high on Jackson Smith and Jigba. I thought once we drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, I said, fuck it, let's just go get Jackson Smith and Jigba and make this offense elite. Not the road to win, but I'm just giving you guys a little disclaimer. I don't like Texas, but there's players that come out of schools that are studs that can help your team. Mitchell, 6'2", 205 pounds, 4.34 40-yard dash. Now, I think his 40-yard dash gets overlooked a lot by how fast Xavier Worthy, his teammate at Texas, ran. A 4.21, breaking the combine record, but a 4.34 is nothing to joke about. That's pretty elite speed. That's pretty. You're in a category with some of the best in the NFL at a 4.34. I'm not going to say you're the fastest guy in the NFL, obviously, because your teammate's going to be faster than you coming into the NFL. But he's in, that's a nice speed. And a lot of you guys are high on Keon Coleman. My only thing I knocked on him is I like him as a player, but I look at his 40-yard dash time of a 4.64. If you want to put Mitchell in Coleman, they're kind of different receivers, but if it's up to me, that's a huge difference. 0.3 of a second is huge. So let's just say it's April 25th. We've signed some defensive ends, a cornerback, whatever I said in the beginning of this episode, and we have that luxury. I keep using that word luxury. What if Brad Holmes takes Mitchell from Texas? I think our offense would be, going into the season, it would be the number one most exciting offense to watch. I don't know who would compete with it. You want to maybe the Miami Dolphins and the Detroit Lions. I think those would be the only two teams you could really argue for offensively on who's going to be better. Goff has to spread the ball around more. I know we love Amon-Ra St. Brown here. He's a dog. We love him. But he's kind of just, from a wide receiver standpoint, he's kind of the only one that Jared Goff looks to. And if we just keep giving Goff these weapons, eventually you would think, spread the ball out. Like, we got all kinds of playmakers. We got Jamison Williams, who touches the ball twice a game. You guys know how I feel about him. He's got to touch the ball more. So add in Adonai Mitchell. 6'2", 205 kind of gives you guys that big X receiver that you guys are looking for. We kind of talked in our mock draft about Xavier Worthy, and you guys were, he gets pressed off the line. He's easily jammed. He's so small, which I don't see on tape. I'd like for you guys to upload some stuff and put it in the comments so I can actually go watch it myself, because I do watch tape on guys that I talk about. I don't come on here without having some very, very strong familiarity of who we're talking about. So Xavier Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell. Those were two of the best receivers in college football last year. They were probably in the top 5, top 6, maybe. I don't know. So what I do is I look at who did Mitchell go against? Who was their biggest game of the season last year? And obviously it was that rematch with Alabama. They kind of felt like they were wrong the year before. They should have had that win. So coming into 2023, they had to go to Alabama, had to go into Tuscaloosa. Mitchell had a decent game. He didn't light them up or anything, but 3 catches for 78 yards. Second most receiving yards in that game, behind, I want to say, the tight end from Texas. Sanders. I had more receiving yards for the University of Texas in that game. But 3 catches, 78 yards. 2 of those catches were touchdowns. So he might not have got a high volume, but he was highly productive. Keep in mind, Alabama is putting 2 starting corners in the NFL first-round draft this year, and Terrion Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry. So that's who he's going against. I mean, again, he didn't light up the stat sheet. He didn't blow up the box score, but he was productive. 3 catches, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's a pretty solid game against Alabama and what they usually field on Saturdays. So, Adonai Mitchell, pick 25. Do you guys like it, or do you don't love it? Do you not hate it? Do you hate it at all? I don't know. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments. Athleticism score at the combine for Mitchell was 91, the 4th best score for the whole weekend. He was the 4th best athlete the whole weekend. Does that not raise your eyebrows and say, dang, should we be taking a harder look at this kid, this Mitchell kid from Texas? 4th best athleticism score? That's pretty impressive out of how many kids went through the combine. Also, one last thing, the RAS score of 9.98 jumps off the charts. That's 9.98 out of 10. He damn near has a perfect raw athleticism score. That is, guys, if that doesn't pique your attention and make you wonder and make you want to look into this kid, I don't know what will. But I'm saying if you put Mitchell with Amon St. Brown, Jamison Williams, the best offensive line in the NFL, you know what our dynamic running backs can do. Gibbs, Montgomery, the best two. Throw in another receiver for Goff. And here's the thing about Goff. Man, I didn't really want to get into a Jared Goff debate or episode, but what Jared Goff needs to be successful is weapons and protection. He's pretty well protected. He could use another. You can never have too many weapons. When you get into big games in late December, January playoffs, you need weapons. That's what Mitchell could be. He could be that guy that puts us over the hump. I know you're thinking, what puts us over the hump and into the Super Bowl is if we can make some defensive plays. Guys, I'm there. I'm with you. I understand. Trust in Brad Holmes. The defense will be fixed. I'm talking one draft pick out of the whole NFL draft in the first round being a wide receiver, depending on how Brad ranks them. Again, I trust Brad. Free agency starts in less than a week. It will be addressed. We will be significantly better defensively. I truly, truly believe that. I'm just giving you guys a road to go down. I'm just giving you guys an option. You're going to get on here and say, what about Xavier Legette from South Carolina? I really like him too. If my opinion, I would just prefer Adonai Mitchell. I really like Xavier Legette. If he's the pick at 29 or somewhere in the second round, depending on what we do, I'm thrilled with Legette as well. There's a lot of receivers I really like in this draft. I'm just talking one. There's so many situations and scenarios that we just don't know what are going to happen yet. We don't know what's going to happen in free agency. We don't know if Brad's going to move up in the draft, move back in the draft. We don't know. I'm just talking one guy. Leave a comment. Let me know how you feel. Hit that like button. Guys, subscribe, please. Helps me out. We'll be back later with some more content. See ya.